So far, so good. You're coming to the bend at the end of the road. You put a hand to the belly that's 4 and more, with every day like an oversized load. And you're thinking about clouds, the color of fire, and the scent of an orange peel. The way Mount Shasta explodes into windshield view, and your hand steady on the wheel. So far, so good. Coffee motel, coffee diner, coffee go on. Styrofoam is drying like the tears that once did flow. Start at 10 o'clock and ending at dawn. And you can't go back, but you're going back, and you don't know what you'll say. You've got half-formed sentences, explanations for a life half broken away, and they just may. They'll take you in their arms and then take out their knives, so you drive and thinking, so far, so good. But you can't go on much longer like this, you know. You're all alone in this world, no, that's not true. The nice Christian lady told you so. She was handing out pamphlets by the clinic door, saying, Jesus knows what you've been through. Take the Savior into your heart, my child. There's a love waiting for the both of you. Well, you don't believe, but you have to believe. It's still crumpled there in your backseat. Were you the hero or the worst kind of coward back that put pavement back under your feet? Couldn't stand the heat, couldn't stand the thought of ghosts with the negative age. Turn the page, okay, so far, so good. You try to sing along with the radio, but it's not your language, not your song. It's from some other time ago. And you're thinking about how someone died that day, the you that was so carefully planned. But then again, maybe this life is like a sleeping mountain, waking up to shape the land. Calm, calm, let it come back to you. Calm, calm, breathe on out. You know what to do. Calm, calm, let it come back to you. Calm, calm, breathe on out. You know what to do.
I was listening to a radio show recently. I guess it must have been This American Life, because Ira Glass, the host, was the person being interviewed. And there was somebody from a Jewish association who was trying to convince him to join this Jewish association. And Ira said, I am of Jewish heritage, but like I don't identify so strongly with it, so thanks, but no thanks. And the guy kept insisting. He's like, no, you're really Jewish. Like, your whole show is just really Jewish. I don't know if you realize that. And so, he found this really intriguing. He's like, well, what do you mean it's really Jewish? And so the guy tried to explain, the whole idea of like, inquiry and, like all this sort of stuff. And he's like, yeah, but there are lots of traditions that are like that. And anyway, they had a kind of long conversation about it. And I was thinking recently, I have often, at various stages in my journey as a musician, sort of shied away from or more fully embraced this idea that I'm a Chinese-American songwriter. And especially in the early days, I felt like, well, I don't want to kind of put myself up with that label at all, because I really don't think that I'm singing in any way about the Chinese-American experience or like writing Chinese-American music. but I do think about that guy who was interviewing Ira Glass saying like, no, there's something really, and I was thinking like someone could maybe make the case like, no, there's something really Chinese American about your music. And and especially during the holidays, I've been thinking about this as I spend time with my family, who are very near and dear to me, and I think as the years go on, I come to appreciate the culture. Not just that I come from in a broader sense, but specifically the culture that my parents have created for our family. And it's definitely one, I was just thinking about this with the last song, because it's written from a political point of view that I actually disagree with. And I have a different stance on that particular issue, namely abortion, in case you guys were wondering what that song was about. But I thought it would be interesting to kind of take this other point of view and try to write from the point of view of someone, of the story turning out in some other way, and a person who held a very different point of view being persuasive in that situation. And I do think that that's something that I take from my family quite a bit, something that I didn't realize until I guess I left the house, that our family, when we get together, we don't just eat and like catch up on kind of personal stuff, but especially my dad's influences, that we get into really big conversations about big stuff. And so we're also, always talking about like race relations in America and like the future of healthcare and that sort of stuff. And we often find that we have slightly different points of view, but we're often able to have a pretty lively debate about it. And I often find that I learn a lot from those conversations. And I think that it didn't really occur to me until maybe just now, or maybe gradually over the last few years, that if there's anything kind of culturally that I took from my upbringing in my music, is that notion of like lively inquiry, of the idea of kind of pulling things apart and wanting to understand them and to understand the stories of these different points of view. And my dad has often said that he wants us to be the Marco Polos of his world, that he wants us to go off into places that have not been fully accessible to him, and to bring back what we find. And sometimes we have brought home tasty things like, pasta, or in our case, Mediterranean food. So we introduced my dad to Mediterranean food. But other times we bring him his lots of ideas that he finds less palatable. But he entertains them, and we have long conversations over lunch and dinner tables together. So it's something that I realize informs my music quite a bit. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for that. One other thing that I have come to be grateful to my parents for is that they're very honest in their feedback. They are supportive parents, and they have often driven me to many auditions, recitals, etc. But they also tell me like, I like that song, not so much the other ones, but that one. And so this is one of my mom's favorites, and it's called Blue Caravan.